Nathan's hands moved gently over my face, his fingers touching the soft skin of my cheek. I tried to swipe at him, but he avoided my touch and smiled. Nathan stopped what he was doing. My voice was a mix of frustration and amusement as I spoke, and our playful banter filled the small living room. The warmth of our laughter filled the cold winter air. Pushing Nathan's hands moved over my face, his fingers gently touching the soft skin of my cheek. I tried to push him away, but he avoided me, smiling. Nathan stopped what he was doing, and my voice, a mix of frustration and amusement, filled the small living room. Our playful banter filled the air, and the warmth of our laughter pressed against the windows, creating a cozy place to be in the cold. Nathan had always been a tease. Even as a child, his natural charm brightened any space. Now, at 26, he was even more attractive. I watched him. My son, now taller and wider, was becoming a man, but he still had the playful mischief that made him so lovable. His dark hair was messy after our light. Nathan had always been a tease. Even as a child, he was charming. Now, at 26, he was even more charming. I watched him. He was my son, now taller and broader, showing that he was a man, but he still had the playful mischief that made him so lovable. His dark hair was messy after our playful fight. His blue eyes glimmered with enjoyment as he spoke to his mother. He leaned closer, smiling, and his breath warm against my neck. He said, "You know you love." I acted annoyed by rolling my eyes, but I knew he was right. Nathan could make people feel connected, loved, and supported, even in these moments. Our relationship had always been strong, but it got stronger after Robert died a year ago. My husband was the love of my life, and his death felt like a part of me was dying too. But Nathan was like I have a reason to keep going, and I'm ready to share more about myself. My name is Matilda, and at 62, I feel confident and graceful. I have lived a full life, full of love, challenges, and memories that have shaped me. I take pride in my appearance. My curves are a testament to years of living and loving well. My husband, Robert, passed away, leaving a void in our lives. At that time, Nathan was 25, just entering adulthood. Losing Robert was a devastating blow, and the grief was overwhelming. However, through that pain, Nathan and I grew even closer. Our bond became unbreakable. Even when Robert was alive, he would often joke that I loved Nathan too much and overshadow him, but that wasn't true. I love them equally, but in my own way. Robert was my partner and my rock, while Nathan was my pride and my Robert and I were very different, but we were equally important to each other. Robert was my partner and my rock. Nathan was my pride and my light. After Robert died, Nathan helped me take care of our family business and deal with life while I was sad. This made us very close. On days when I was sad, he made me strong. After Robert died, Nathan helped me with the family business and with life in general. We became very close because we depended on each other. He made me strong on days when I felt weak. I reminded him of how his father used to act and the life we were making together. So, we found ourselves in this small room. Nathan and I felt better when we laughed, and we had a special connection. Our closeness might seem strange to some, but it felt natural to us. We played and worked together, and we were happy in simple moments. Sometimes, he would put his head on my chest, and I would hold him like I did when he was a baby. This made me feel better. Even as he got older, he still needed me. He needed me to calm him down, just like he did when he was younger. I didn't mind. It was our way of keeping the love and connection that helped us through hard times. As time went on, our relationship changed in ways we didn't expect. It wasn't just about being close or talking in the bath. It was about a deep connection that went beyond the usual limits of a mother and child. Our bond became the most important part of my life. It was a safe place where I found strength and comfort. We were put into situations we didn't know, but we learned to deal with them. To other people, this might seem strange, but to us it felt normal. Nathan was more than just my kid. He was my partner in sadness, my secret friend, and my constant support. Every night after a busy day running the family business, Nathan and I would relax in our living room. It was our safe place, a place where we could leave the problems of the day behind. We shared a small but inviting room. It was bathed in the soft golden light of an old lamp that sat on the corner table. This light made the room feel like a safe haven from the world outside. Nathan would always sit close to me, sometimes so close that our shoulders touched. His presence was steady and reassuring. It was a quiet reminder that I wasn't facing life's challenges alone. Though we didn't always speak, the silence between us felt comfortable. It was filled with an unspoken understanding that words couldn't capture. It was a ritual we both cherished. We started sharing baths. It was a kind act by Nathan. He saw how stressed I was after Robert died. He wanted to give me some peace. He would prepare everything carefully. He would run the bath and add a lot of lavender. He knew how much I loved the oil's calming scent. The bathtub was large and luxurious, big enough for us to share without feeling crowded. Nathan would help me step in his hand, steadying me as I eased into the warm water. We'd sit there, letting the heat relax our tired bodies. Sometimes, we'd just sit and let the water run. We would sit next to the tub and let the warm water soak our tired bodies. Nathan would help me step in, and he'd hold my hand. He'd tell us stories that made us laugh and cry. Sometimes he'd talk about his dreams for the family business. He wanted to expand it and honor Robert's legacy. His words were full of determination and love. I felt a swell of pride in him. Do you think Dad? Would he be proud of us? One evening, Nathan asked, his voice full of hope and fear. I looked at his face, my thumb moving gently over the short hair on his jaw. He is Nathan, he is always Nathan, and I am always me. He leaned into my touch, our blue eyes looking into each other as if to say, I understand. Nathan, I'm proud of us, I said one evening. His tone was vulnerable and hopeful. I traced his face with my thumb, moving over the light stubble on his jawline. I'm Nathan, as I've always been, and so am I, he said, leaning into my touch. His blue eyes looked into mine as if he wanted me to reassure him. At that moment, the room felt closed in, and the world seemed quiet, as if it only existed for the two of us in those moments. The bath was more than just a place to relax. It was a place where we connected in a deep way. Nathan was attentive and considerate, showing me that I was important to him. In response, I tried to be the support he needed as he grew up without his dad's guidance. These evenings were the best part of my day. It was a time when the weight of responsibility went away, and we just enjoyed each other's company. The warm water, the lavender scent, and Nathan's constant presence made me feel safe, loved, and supported. I hadn't thought that was possible after Robert died, but those moments with Nathan showed me that I wasn't alone. We found comfort in our rituals, creating a new rhythm in our lives. We were based on love, understanding, and the strength we got from each other. Over time, our physical intimacy grew. He would sit next to me on the couch, resting his head on my lap, while I stroked his hair. It was an unspoken agreement, a way to comfort each other. One evening, he lay his head across my chest and said, "You are my everything, Mom." His words hung in the air, full of meaning. I kissed his forehead, and my heart felt full of many emotions, love, pride, and a strong sense of responsibility. It felt like a weight and a privilege. We built our lives around each other, and our routines fit perfectly together. One night, I sat at the edge of my bed, and I couldn't. I kissed his forehead. I felt many emotions, including love, pride, and a strong sense of responsibility. We built our lives around each other, and our routines worked well together. One night, I sat at the edge of my bed, unable to sleep. I felt very sad because of my husband's death. My eyes were puffy from crying a lot, and my heart hurt from feeling lonely. I missed him so much. I missed his laughter, his touch, and his presence. I couldn't stop thinking about my husband's death. I cried all the time, and I felt very lonely. I missed his laughter, his touch, and his presence. I felt like a part of me was missing, and nothing could make me feel better. I looked at the walls of our bedroom, and I remembered all the good times we had together. I heard the creak of the door, and Nathan stepped in. His eyes showed that he was worried. He always knew when something was wrong. I felt like I had lost a part of myself. I couldn't stop thinking about the past, and I felt a strong sadness. I heard the creak of the door, and Nathan came in. His eyes showed that he was worried. He had been like this since he was a child. This is one of the many things that made our relationship so strong and so special. "Mom," he said gently as I approached. "I saw you when I entered." I was unable to resist. His voice was very comforting to my troubled spirit. I looked up at him, my son, my closest friend. "Mom," I said, as I approached. "I saw you when I entered." I was unable to resist. His voice was a soothing balm to my troubled spirit. I gazed up at him, my son and closest companion. I felt a tear cascade down my face. He extended his hand to my shoulder. The warmth of his touch elicited a shiver inside me. It was a small act, but it had profound significance in that moment. "Nathan," I muttered, my voice quivering. "I am uncertain how to proceed in his absence. I miss him. I need him." Nathan moved in closer, his breath warm on my skin, and said, "You don't have to be alone." His words, "I'm here for you," made me cry a lot, as I held him. He held me tightly, as if he would never let go. "I miss him. I need him." Nathan moved in closer, his breath warm on my skin, and muttered, "You don't have to be alone." His words, "I'm here for you," made me cry. I grabbed him and held him tightly, as if he could stop my pain. I felt safe and loved. I cherished it. It was an emotion I had not felt since my husband's death, and it was both reassuring and confusing. As we sat there feeling sad together, Nathan's hands began to move gently, caressing my back. I felt safe and loved in his arms. I was happy, but I also felt confused. I hadn't felt this way since my husband died. Nathan's hands moved slowly as he touched my back, arms, and hair. Each touch was intentional and made me feel happy. I looked at him, and my eyes looked for his eyes. I saw that he was looking at me with love, but I also saw something else. He said, "Mom, I need you." His voice was very quiet. My arms and hair touched each other. Each touch was intentional, and it made me feel breathless. I looked up at him, and my eyes searched his face. I saw a mix of affection and something else, something more serious and strange. "Mom," he said softly, barely above a whisper. "I need you to know that I love you deeply." His confession hung in the air like a heavy secret. I felt my heart race as I tried to understand what he meant. His words felt dangerous and wrong, but they also felt like they were waiting for something deep inside me. Something I had kept hidden for a long time before I could react. Nathan leaned in close, and his lips touched mine. It was a soft and cautious kiss. It was tender, like he was afraid. I felt a spark inside me when our lips met. I felt a flame ignite inside me, and I responded to his kiss. It was wrong, but it felt right. Nathan's hands touched my face, and his fingers held my hair as he moved closer. Our tongues touched, and we explored each other with so much desire that I couldn't catch my breath. I felt the heat and tension between us growing. Nathan's hands traveled across my back, and his touch made me feel excited and covered in goosebumps. I whispered, "Nathan," even though I wanted to pull away. But he didn't stop. He kissed me again, more strongly and urgently. I agreed to what Nathan was making me feel. I tried. We were exploring each other with such a strong desire that it left me breathless. I felt the heat growing and the tension mounting between us. Nathan's hands traveled down my back, and his touch made me feel electrified, with goosebumps rising up my spine. "Nathan," I whispered, even though I wanted to pull away, but he didn't stop. He kissed me again, more forcefully and urgently. I gave in to the feelings he was making me feel. I tried to speak, but my voice was shaking as his lips traced a heated path along my jawline and down to my neck. I thought this was wrong, but even though I tried to stop, my hands held him closer by running through his thick hair. His breath was warm against my skin as he said, "But why does it feel so perfect?" His lips moved lower, grazing my collarbone with a gentle insistence that made me gasp quietly. Once again, I felt my voice shake as his lips traced a heated path along my jawline and down to my neck. I thought this was inappropriate, but despite my protest, my hands moved against my will, tangling in his thick hair and pulling him closer. His breath was warm against my skin as he murmured, "Why does it feel so perfect?" His lips moved lower, grazing my collarbone with a gentle insistence that made me emit a soft gasp. "You're beautiful," he said softly, his gaze sweeping over me with a reverence that caused my cheeks to flush. He leaned in once again, his lips met mine. This time, his kiss was more profound. His approach was neither rushed nor frantic, but deliberate and unhurried. He acted with intention, as if striving to preserve every second and movement. I felt his hands glide along my sides, his thumbs grazing my ribs, igniting trails of fire with each touch. "Nathan, you're beautiful," he said, his eyes full of emotion as he looked at me. He moved closer to me, his lips finding mine, and this time the kiss felt even better. He was moving slowly and deliberately, as if he wanted to savor every moment. His hands moved along my sides, and his thumbs touched my ribs, making me feel warm and excited. I could barely speak, and his lips found the hollow of my throat. His hands moved lower, resting on my hips, and he pulled me closer to him. His body felt hot against mine, and I couldn't help but lean back and let him continue. His lips found mine again, and he moved with a passion that matched my own. His hands held the back of my head, and I felt tingly. I held his hair with my fingers, and he gently pulled me closer. I whispered, my voice barely audible, as his lips found the hollow of my throat. His hands moved lower, resting on my hips, pulling me closer to him. The warmth of his body against mine was intoxicating. I could not resist tilting my head back, granting him further access. His lips returned to mine, moving with a fervor that mirrored my own. His hands cradled my cheek with a tenderness that sent shivers through me. Entwined my fingers in his hair, and he drew me closer as his mouth explored mine, leaving no area untouched. Each sensation intensified with every electric touch, overwhelming me with a blend of heat and electricity that compelled me to arch against him, yearning for more. His hands moved with a confidence that belied his age, yet each gesture carried a tenderness that reassured me and made me feel cherished. His lips followed his hands, exploring, leaving me breathless, longing for more time. We were so lost in each other that time seemed to stop. Nathan's lips remained on mine, his touch was both respectful and increasingly intense, and it matched my own desires. His fingers traced intricate patterns along my sides. The more he touched me, the more intense the sensations became. I felt a mix of heat and electricity that made me arch against him, wanting more. His hands moved with a confidence that matched his age, but each gesture was also tender, which made me feel cherished. His lips followed his hands, exploring and making me breathless, and I longed for more time. As we became engrossed in each other, the outside world faded away. There was only Nathan, his touch, his kisses, and his whispered words that made my heart quicken. "Nathan," I murmured once more. His voice quivered as his lips returned to mine. This kiss was deeper and more intense, causing the final traces of hesitation to disappear. The night extended, our breaths, intertwining with each kiss, touch, and whispered word, serving as a declaration. We were so caught up in each other that we didn't notice the outside world fading away. All that was left was Nathan, his touch, his kisses, and his whispered words that made my heart race. "Nathan," I said again, his voice quivering as his lips returned to mine. This kiss was deeper and more intense, causing the final traces of hesitation to disappear. The night went on, our breaths intertwined with each kiss, touch, and whispered word, serving as a declaration. We continued like this, unstoppable, the room filled with our whispers, laughter, and gasps as we explored each other, discovering every curve, line, and secret. Time seemed to stop, giving us this moment of endless night where only the two of us mattered. Nathan's lips remained on mine, his touch both respectful and increasingly eager, mirroring my own desires. His fingers traced intricate patterns along my sides. We kept going, our bodies on top of each other. The room was filled with our sounds, laughter, and gasps as we touched each other. We found every part of each other's bodies. It felt like time stopped, and we were only there with each other. Nathan's lips were on mine. His touch was careful, but also excited, and it made me want more. His fingers moved along my sides, and I could feel myself getting excited. He said, "You are everything I have ever wanted." His voice was full of passion. I stopped him with another kiss. My hands moved down his back. I could feel the tension in his muscles. I could feel his body heat. I could feel the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the world. It was intoxicating. I should have stopped. I should have finished. But every time I tried to say that I wanted to stop, I felt a shiver of anticipation. "You are everything I have ever desired," he whispered, his voice full of passion. I stopped him with another kiss. I felt his hands on my back, felt the tension in his muscles, his warmth, his power, and the way he gazed at me as if I were the only person in existence. It was intoxicating. I ought to have ceased. I ought to have concluded the chaos. Yet each time I attempted to voice my objections, his touch muted my dissent, pulling me further into the moment. His hands framed my face as he kissed me anew, his thumbs gliding over my cheeks. "Tell me if this is excessive," he murmured. His gaze was probing mine, imbued with both fervor and apprehension. "It is not," I replied, my voice a breathless whisper. "I desire this. I want you." The words had hardly left my lips when his mouth captured mine once again. His kisses became more audacious and insistent. Touch made my dissent less obvious, and he pulled me closer to the present moment. His hands were on my face as he kissed me again. His thumbs moved over my cheeks. He said, "Is this too much?" I answered, "No, I want this. I want you." I could barely speak. His mouth was on mine again. His kisses were bold and insistent. His hands moved over my body. His touch made me feel a strong, burning desire. I really admired him. I tried to get him closer, but I couldn't. The air in the room felt thick and electric. My hands were in his hair. I gently pulled as his lips moved down my neck, across my throat, and up my chest. His hands explored my body, and I was captivated by the intensity of his gaze. I was drawn to him like a moth to a flame. The air in the room thickened with electricity. I held his hair, and he kissed my neck, throat, and chest. His mouth was hot against my skin, and I felt a surge of pleasure with every touch. I surrendered to the sensation of his presence, feeling cherished, desired, and loved. "Nathan," I whispered, my voice breaking as his hands moved down my thighs, bringing us closer together. I couldn't help but whisper his name, like a prayer, a plea, and a confession of unspoken truths. "Matilda," he murmured against my skin. His voice quivered with emotion. His mouth was passionate against my skin, making me feel hot all over. Every part of my body felt good when he touched me. I felt like I belonged to him, like he wanted me, and like he loved me. "Nathan," I whispered, my voice shaking, as his hands moved down my thighs, bringing us closer. His name escaped my lips like a prayer, a secret I didn't want to share. "You're incredible," he said to me, his voice shaking with emotion. The intensity of his gaze, the way he looked at me like I was his whole world, made my heart feel tight. I knew what we were doing was wrong and that there would be consequences, but in that moment, I only thought about him, about the feelings he made me have, and how he held me like he would never let me go. Time didn't matter as we gave in to each other, our bodies and souls joined together in an old dance. "You're incredible." The intensity of his gaze and the way he regarded me as though I were his entire universe made my heart feel tight. I knew our actions were wrong and that something bad would happen, but in that moment, I was thinking about him, the emotions he was feeling, and how he held me as if he would never let me go. Time didn't matter as we gave in to each other. Our bodies and souls were joined in an old dance. The room was filled with our energy, our breaths mixed together, and our hearts were in sync. As the night went on, Nathan held me tightly, and I rested my head against his chest, listening to the calm beat of his heart. We stayed silent for a long time. We felt the weight of what we were doing on us. I felt the guilt and saw it in Nathan's eyes when he finally looked at me. "This shouldn't have happened," I said gently, keeping my arms around him. I didn't want to let go. I could tell he felt bad, and I didn't regret what we did. I knew it was wrong, and we would have problems because of it, but I couldn't be sad about the feelings it made us have. Even though I felt guilty, we held each other and promised to keep our secret a secret.